Get out!
Hello tankers and tankettes, welcome to one of my replays. Today I'm looking at the VK45.02 B, which is the tier 9 German heavy that isn't an E75. I've kind of chosen this for several reasons. One, obviously, being that it's a fairly entertaining match, or at least I hope it will be. But another is that this is actually finally getting buffed in 9.2, and there have been rumours of buffs on this tank for a very long time, and we're talking at least a year, if not longer. Now, this has never been anything like as popular as the E75. I think one of the reasons is because it obviously goes up to the mouse, and I think a lot of people who do play through it just play through it to get to the mouse. I've actually held on to mine. It's actually, in terms of the gun stats, it is near identical to the E75, but because it's got that different armour layout, and it's got less mobility, and it's got that quite awkward rear turret configuration, it's the kind of case where even though the guns are nearly identical, the platforms they're attached to really drastically change the experience. So yes, the guns on a tank are important, but the rest of the tank's fairly important as well. So the buffs it's getting are to the frontal armour, basically. Now, this could be a good thing and a bad thing. It's already got fairly tough frontal armour, but only really the upper front plate. The lower front plate armour value is pretty good, but it's still nowhere near as tough as the lower front plate on the E75. It's also got a couple of weak spots that the E75 lost a good few patches ago. It's finally losing those as well, which is the front MG port on the upper front plate, and ow, yes, hello T69, and the commander's hatch, so that's nice that they're getting buffed. But what it is getting in addition to that is the front armour is being increased. I can't remember what the lower front plate is being increased to, but the upper front plate is being increased to 200, which is what the mouse has. Now bear in mind this is only the front armour that's getting buffed, but still, that's a good thing. But it might also increase the amount of gold ammo people are shooting at you. And that, it's one of those tanks where that can be more of a case, just because you've already got that fairly troll upper front plate. So, I don't know. Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. I think in the long term we'll see. I suspect we might also have a slight nerf to horsepower per ton as well, because obviously you're going to have extra weight on the tank, but there aren't going to be any engine buffs. So, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be significant though, but we'll see. This thing actually in theory has better horsepower per ton than the E75, but because it's got a slower traverse and a slower top speed, really doesn't feel, you know, not that there's that much difference between them, but anyway. So, to the match at hand, I'm with Circon and he's in a T54, and our E75 was with us and managed to get nuked. This is looking a bit dicey. That Tiger 2's died, and now it's just literally me and Circon. In theory, we have a Centurion supporting from the B line, but look where he is. Now, I've said this tank is awkward, and this tank is probably about as awkward as me in really any kind of social situation. It's that level of awkwardness. You see that, look at that traverse speed, it doesn't turn very fast, and this is not a great spot for this tank to be, but there's no other better spot for this tank to be on this map. It's just one of those tanks where on some maps it's gonna suck. So you just have to make the best of it and do the best you can. Now this is not particularly good play from me here. I'm showing this guy all of my lower front plate. But I'm horribly aware of the fact that the enemy team has got a tin 8 artillery. And yeah, I flubbed that shot. That was not a particularly great shot. Not that this is good for firing on the move especially, but anyway. That IS-6 has actually saved me some trouble. Instead of trying to come behind me, he's now come round to my front. So my front armour is facing in the right direction. But again, the gun depression on this is not... It's actually less good than the E75. By only a degree, and the E75 is not great to begin with, so... This is an extremely uncomfortable situation for this tank. So I think, okay, I'm just going to take the risk that artillery is going to fire on me, because I can't... If I keep poking out and showing my lower front plate like that, that's just... I'm going to get spanked all day long. So, I can see on the minimap, yeah, that T54E1 is thinking of getting behind me, so I'm going to pull forward, turn the turret. Turret traverse on this is pretty damn slow as well. That's not getting buffed, unfortunately. And I can plant a big one in his side there, and that helps Circ on out. Now, I've got quite a long reload. I'm not quite sure why it didn't pick up the reload timer in this replay, but it didn't. And again, here comes the IS-6, who fortunately fires at my upper front plate rather than the side of my turret, because I didn't have it fully round by that point. So I think about going after him. Don't quite know what's behind him, if anything, though, and there's still that T-5041 to worry about. There's also the stuff in the middle. I don't want to expose my side to that stuff, so I'm backing off. I'm not chasing down that IS-6. 5-7. That Centurion has not moved. He's just totally failing to react to what's happening at all. He's sitting back there and sniping on stuff when it's coming round to shoot at us, okay. But he's not using his position to any kind of advantage. He's not pressing up, even though we know there's nothing left on the B line anymore. He's going to be... We're going to see some of him later. And I'm not particularly picking on him because, you know, OMG, look at that guy, he's doing it wrong. I'm doing it... I'm pointing him out with the hope that... oh, yeah, Circon just died to a T-30, by the way. With the hope that somebody out there will see it and think, okay, maybe if I'm in that situation, or a similar-ish situation, I won't do the same thing. Now, I'm quite worried by this point. The IS is not that big of a threat, but still artillery. The IS-6 could hurt me if he loads gold. And there's the T-30, but very fortunately, the T-30 has driven round to be in front of me. That is a major stroke of luck. And I've just bounced him off my upper front plate. This already has 10mm more armour on the upper front plate than the E-75 does. And that bounces off, I think, the side of my turret, I'm not sure. And this turret is also pretty much the same turret that the E-75 has, apart from that Commander's Hatch weak spot, which the E-75 used to have, doesn't have anymore. So this is now a bit better in that they're all in front of me and they're not trying to flank me. If they were trying to flank me, and that luck. If they were trying to flank me, I'd just be stuffed. You could not turn the tank fast enough. And this is something you have to get used to when you're going onto the mouse as well, because the mouse is even worse in terms of traverse speed. Now our Centurion has sniped out one of those guys for that last bit of health. And there we go, he takes out that IS-6 as well. And you'll see at the end, he's actually done an okay-ish amount of damage. It's not his damage output I'm particularly criticising in this, it's his tactical awareness and what he's doing with his tank and where he's going on the map. He's now finally moving up the B line at a point where it's now totally useless to do so. We know where the Panther is, we know where the Jagdtiger is. The Jagdpanther, not quite sure, but he might be south as well. We've not seen any sign of this guy so far. The Centurion, I don't know if he thought the artillery would be up in that corner, but given that the enemy artillery is a GW Tiger P, it's unlikely that he'd spend that time to drive all the way up there. So that's just he's just wasting time at this point. This is when you look at the team list and you look at places where they might be and you think, are they likely to be there? The Centurion did not make a good judgment call in that regard. But anyway, the Super Pershing is now tangling with that Panther in the south. The Stuart Emil, who will have not done much. You'll see at the end he really hasn't done much in this match at all. Yes, he's in a fragile tank destroyer, so I'm not going to hold it on him too much, but still he could have been in a better position by this point in the match. Anyway, I know the Jagdtiger was there. Oh, there's the Jagdpanther. He's in the south as well, so there's the Jagdtiger. I am going to fall back, keeping an angle, and he fires, hits the upper front plate, fortunately. Very fortunately, because I was kind of backing down that little slope there. My lower front plate would have been quite prominent. Anyway, I took the time to put one in him because I knew he'd just, you know, he was reloading. So I take the time to fire, back off. I was switching to APCR thinking maybe hit his superstructure or something, but nah. Let's actually come at this from a different angle. Now, again, the Centurion, he's just doing it all completely wrong. He's sitting in front of Jagdtiger's gun, and I think he had a very lucky bounce there. He's not really even using that bit of terrain. He's just sitting there right at the edge of the map where it's flattest. And that's a tier 9 tank destroyer, and he's in a not very well armoured tier 8 tank. His one advantage is the turret. And there is a bit of slope there that you could use, potentially, but he isn't. So this guy, he knows where to shoot, but he's not really displaying much in the way of tactical awareness in terms of terrain usage and where you should be going on a map. So there's artillery. And the Jagdtiger is not quite a one-shot, so that's always satisfying. The Jagdtiger's the last guy. If I could get one more hit into him, that would be nice. I've actually done a reasonable amount of damage in this game. 4,300 is not too shabby at all. One of the main reasons I've gone to do so much damage is, oh, artist fires and misses, and the Centurion's dead. He didn't even back off when he was dying. I don't know what he was thinking, to be quite honest. Our Panther is providing a good distraction for me, and I burned out the Jagdtiger as well. So that's a pair of Tier 9 tank destroyers I managed to burn out, and a top gun. Rather nice. So, yeah, Zircon in his T-54 could have done, if he'd been alive at that end stage of the match, he would have cleaned up. I would probably have done maybe half the damage that I did manage to do. As it was, 5,000, nearly 5,100 damage and 1,400 assistance. That's not too shabby. I also got an ace tanker, top gun, high caliber, and a steel wall. And we'll actually see on the list the Super Pershing did fairly well for himself. He did 2,400 damage. Zircon, even though he died relatively early on in the match, he did 2.8k. And then actually comes that Centurion, who had 1,938. But it was his... where he was going on the map and where he was placing himself and how he was reacting to situations was just, you know, we were lucky to win this. We didn't really... if we'd had help from that guy, I would have had less damage possibly, but it would have been a bit more comfortable and I wouldn't have been worried so much. But there were also some other strokes of luck, like that T-30 made a massive tactical error. If he'd driven round behind me... Now, yes, maybe they knew there was that Centurion there. Maybe he didn't want to actually drive round and expose himself. And okay, fair enough. But as it was, it just didn't matter. And my fears about artillery in this game were luckily unfounded as well. But if artillery had hit me even once, this could have been very different as well. So, yeah, it's just an awkward tank. And I think there's no getting away from it. But I've kept it because I kind of like it in a weird way. It's not... There's a lot of maps where it doesn't work particularly well, and that is kind of true of the mouse as well. So it's like, if you can get used to the VK45.02 B, if you can find something in there that you enjoy about it, then you're probably going to like the mouse as well. But if you get to the 45.02 B and absolutely hate it, then that's not particularly a good sign of things to come. So this was a decent match for me in this thing. You know, I've already had my definitive ace tanker, but it's always nice when you pick one up. It means you've done pretty well. 1,478 base XP in a tier 9 tank. That's not too shabby. And 3 medals to go with it. So I'm not going to complain. Even if it was the fact that Zircon, you know, dying that just gave me that opportunity, it's still, sometimes you just have to take that opportunity and really, you know, take it. Wow, I went all Jane Cobb there, didn't I? Yeah, well, GG. So, if you enjoyed this replay, you can hit the like button, you can leave any comments below, you can subscribe to my channel, and as always, stay tuned for more.